This is very important. And now, I hate this stuff because it's not exciting. This is not exciting. This is dread. But this is so important. It's like how do you explain this? It's hard to explain it. It's like we're accountable to things, and you know, a lot of times, you know, you hear messages about being bold and don't letting the enemy stop you, and etc. We're going, and you hear testimonies from men of God, but you have to understand that these men of God with experience and years of experience and training and having this in their understanding may make decisions based on the influence of the Holy Spirit, because they don't give a testimony about, well, yeah, you know, there was signs up that said no trespassing, but we went in there anyway, and we started telling people about Jesus, and they kicked us out. Now we can never go back. We can't even shop there. You know, if you have those red bumper stickers on your car, the security escorts you totally out of the parking lot. No, you don't hear that. You hear stories of God just really bringing forth a victory. Okay, now, this is here at Greater Grace Church, this is our door-to-door and literature distribution protocols. Okay? Now, I think I told you a couple stories. I told you a couple stories, and actually, I think I'm going to play. Did I play you an example of a complaint? Green carrot, like. Man, I sold that, man. You know, on my personal business here. Little green caravan, man. No, it's parked. It goes straight out. It's right behind the bush, right there, light green. And it's in the middle somewhere, probably in a tray. I'll go get it for you. Okay. All right. Okay, what was I saying? So you heard that. Lady was very upset because somebody stuck a track in her door. All right, a track in her door. Now, tracks, these puppies right here, these are a tool. Like these are a tool. They're a very important tool. We'll go about this in a minute, but it's like they're not just for like just there may be times when you're on a corner and you're passing out to many people, but these are really meant to be used to enter into a conversation with a person. They're to buffer the point of contact. In other words, if you're walking down the street and somebody just comes up and talks to you cold turkey, you're kind of like, hey, you know, unless you know them, that's unusual. But if you have a track, or if you go to the door and you have a track, then somebody sees, oh, they want to give me something. Okay? And which is why we've, I think I've told you this before, we've developed more visibly friendly tracks, more other than what used to be just this, so that when we approach a person, if I approach you with this, you can't really tell what I'm giving you. But if I approach you with this, that's a nice picture. Well, what is it you have to tell me? Rescued by love. Thank you, sir. That's all right, man. They're not as small as those other glasses. All right, here we go. I can see. All right. So, now what did I just do with that piece of paper? Take my glasses off and I'll find it, right? Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. All right. So, now these are things to consider. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions But we'll read through this because this is very short. The premise of all door-to-door evangelism: we are approaching the threshold of someone's private domain. We do not necessarily know the preferences and sensitivities of the resident. So all doors must be approached with sensitivity and respect. This is of great concern to many homeowner associations. The general rule is to leave nothing if no one is home. Now, we are approaching a person's home. What doctrines in the Bible, what doctrines, what teachings, what principles that are taught in the Bible need to be understood and respected before you even approach a person? You know, if there were tensions in Bible college, you'd be there. Doctrine of privacy. Doctrine of privacy. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Sebastian, what do I hit to turn this puppy on? On? My man. Okay, thanks, sir. Now, how important is that? How important is that doctrine? The doctrine of privacy. What is the doctrine of privacy? Somebody tell me. Yes. Oh, no battery. Man, it's a good night tonight. What's the doctrine of privacy? What? It's not on. It's no battery. It's dead.
Okay, doctrine of privacy is when the person has a right.
Can you hear him?
Yeah. Has a right to space, to a location, also that is belong to him and not be invaded by others. That's how I think it.
Okay. Anybody want to add to that? Doctrine of privacy. This is very important.
It's also the doctrine of the believer priesthood.
Doctrine of believer priesthood, but we're also dealing with unsaved people. But you're correct. You're correct. Doctrine of privacy.
We don't harass. We don't come on like too aggressive.
What?
We don't harass. We don't come on too aggressive and show that we're like brute tactics. We're just haranguing, harassing.
Now, I'll get to you later. There's a principle that has been part of what we've been teaching in the foundation principles. Privacy is very important. What I really want you to understand by the end of this course is, a lot of Christianity approaches non-believers and other believers in a condescending fashion. Doctrine of privacy, here's the other side of a doctrine of privacy. If Zolt has an issue in his personal life and he comes and talks to me, okay, whether I'm a pastor or not, right, do I have a right to mention that to any other person in the whole world? Even my wife. It's his private business. Unless he says, I don't mind if you talk to your wife about it because she's smarter than you anyway. Right? But that's very important. How important is it? Has Jesus ever violated your privacy? Right. Now, because we are approaching a person's home, okay? Now, this is a very important principle, and this relates to the legalities and protocols and principles. This is a person's home. Okay? Let's say somebody give me a name. Joe? Okay, this is Joe's home. Now, I gave you a word. The last 2 weeks I gave you a word. Very important word. The most important word in dealing with the soul. Most important word. That we never do what to what? What? Free will. What's the V word? What? Volition. A person's volition. The Lord will never, ever violate a person's free will. If God violates a person's free will choice, then there is no glory. Okay? If God reached into your heart and put himself in it, there's no glory in that. Matter of fact, that reflects the opposite. That doesn't reflect grace, mercy, and love. It reflects control. Reflects control. This is Joe's house. Okay? Joe likes to drink beer. Right? Whose business is that? Is it your job when you evangelize to talk to him about drinking beer? What are we trying to go? What are we trying to present? Christ. Right? Okay. We're getting, yeah, okay. That's his private business. Okay? We're not there to judge how Joe has his house, but who's the head of that house? Who is? Joe is. This is Joe's house. Okay? So, we don't know what Joe's preferences are until we go and knock on the door. And then we meet Joe. Now, what if Joe's into Satan worship? Does that change? Does the principle change? Is it now it's my job, it's my job to make Joe a Christian so that he's no longer a Satan worshiper? When was the last time Jesus Christ woke you up in the middle of the night and slapped you in the face? And said, stop doing that, do this. See, he could if he wanted to, though, right? He could right now. He can grab us by the shirt collars and say, this is what I want you to do this. But he doesn't. How does he motivate us? He brings his word in. Somehow, some way. This is the mystery and the magical and the wonderfulness that you participate in developing outreach, is that you become part of the mystery of God and the magic of God, how God woos people with his character and with his word. Our purpose, to glorify God, so as people see us, they see something different. They see it's not about us, it's about him. Then as they get to know us, we reveal the character and nature of Christ. Because what's the first thing Mr. Beerholder is going to expect when a Christian comes to their door? What's to it? Right? Isn't that what he's going to expect? If you were outside before Bible college and you stopped at a bar and had a few drinks and you came into Bible college and you walked up to me and I smelled something on your breath and your eyes were bloodshot, what would you expect from me? What's your first reaction? Huh? No, yeah. That I'm going to confront you, right? Okay. That's not our initiation of people. Our first initiation of people is Christ. It's Christ. Now, So this is why, this is why we have this when you go to the door. So door-to-door evangelism is very important, and protocols when you go to a door is very important. And we must respect a person's private domain. Now, another biblical principle is what? Privacy, volition, headship, covering, headship. In other words, I cannot touch the headship of that house. Joe's the head of that house. If I walk into Joe's house, I cannot walk in and say, oh, excuse me, can you put all the beers away, please? Because it really bothers me. If I walk in, I hate cigarette smoke. It irritates my lungs, probably from doing floors and all that kind of stuff. I hate it. But if I go into someone's house and they're smoking, guess what? I may be coughing and blowing my nose for a week later, but if I go into the house, I'm not going to be like, put out the cigarette, please. Why? Because I represent Jesus? No, we respect their headship, the covering. Okay. Giving out literature. Number 1, Baltimore City has an ordinance against leaving pamphlets, flyers on someone's door. Baltimore City's ordinance is that you can't do it. And if they find out you do it, yes, sir.
Just a question to the previous one. How would you deal with loud music or loud TV?
That's a good question. What's that?
So, first time turn it on?
Yep.
So, how would you deal with a loud music or a loud TV if you go into a home?
Okay. If the person invites you in and they want to talk to you, okay, if you're with that person and they can hear you, because where we may be distracted, they may not be distracted, okay? If they can hear you, or you may say, hey, can we step over here? Or sometimes if you get to know a person, it's okay. Can we turn the TV off? Do you mind? But what I'm trying to get is that we don't go with that. Please turn the TV off. Please tell the children to go over there and sit down, and I would like to speak to you now. You understand? If you're respectful, you can ask them to do anything. I mean, I've had to, I'm going to just step outside while you finish that cigarette because my eyes are like, You know what I'm saying? When you're done, I'll come back. So very respectfully. But and see, I guess that's a very good point. Is that a lot of times when we go evangelizing, we're going to confront things that really are offensive to us. You could go and hear some loud rock, crazy acid rock music and some swearing and stuff on the TV and stuff like that. And it may be offensive to you and you want to do something about it, but when you're in somebody else's home, if it bothers you that much, then don't go in. Okay? But if they invite you in, then they're receiving your initiation, right? They're accepting your initiation. So, in your initiation, part of their response will be to be sensitive to you as your relationship develops. Okay. So there's a committee in Baltimore that closed down 2 pizza shops because they left flyers on people's porches. Now you say there's hundreds of restaurants that still do that. That's true. But there's a group that goes around and takes pictures, and you'd never want that to happen to the church. Because once it happens, see, like that lady who called, once it happens in a neighborhood, it black marks you. It's like you have a neighborhood, you have houses. This is one block. If this person has a problem with you, I promise you, before you even get back to your car, the rest of this block is aware that you're a problem. The rest of that neighborhood is aware. Especially the next time you go back. Because, A, if they're unsaved, they're not doing anything redemptive with their life, right? If they're unsaved, who are they motivated by? Right? And if you're going out to produce fruit for Christ, who's Satan opposing? You. You. So, if we're smart, then we avoid this whole thing. See? If I don't offend her, then all these rest of the doors stay open. I gave you the example of when I was soul winning with that guy, and he yelled at that person, and 3 other people were walking down the street, and I couldn't even say hi to him. I gave you that example, right? Okay. Because I could do it again. All right. Okay. Now, you're gonna. These are for yours to keep, too. Number 3, do not pass out anything on private property without permission. Rather, speak to management and get permission. Private property is stores, malls. Malls are very, very, very touchy. Malls are with the little security guys. Yeah. Anybody here work mall security? Anybody? Little security cops, got that flashlight and the whistle. And that little yellow light, they think they're like SWAT. Huh? State trooper hat. Yep. Okay. They will love to make up for the boring time by making an issue out of your church. Okay. But if you speak to management and say, hey, listen, we just want to give this to some folks, and we won't bother people. And a lot of times, if you do that first, they will allow you to do it. And there's a principle about that that works out pretty good. Most times, we won't be refused if we address management in a way that assures them that patrons won't be harassed and respected if they decline. Henceforth, the doctrine of privacy and volition. An aggressive approach is always guaranteed to get you on the security's radar. Once we become a red flag to security, it will hinder any future endeavor. For example, White Marsh Mall is open for us to do a Christmas concert. They're open for our choir to go one of these years and do their Christmas program in the mall, which means that we'll have full presence there. We did it a few years ago in Silver Spring. But the strict rule is that you can't pass out tracts inside of the mall. Now, if you have somebody who's a little, anxious, and they go and they want to do outreach in the mall and they start passing out tracts, and they get in trouble one time, what happens to that opportunity for the Christmas concert? It's done. It's like black mark, just like that. And that Christmas concert is like important because that will reach a lot of people that will be sitting around listening to the Christmas music. And I'll remind me I'll get through this fast. Remind me at the end of this to explain the Christmas story. Okay? And I'll explain that. Yes.
Did you believe that's serious if somebody who doesn't like us is going to the mall with the Greater Grace track and say, I'm from Greater Grace?
Yes.
Even
Even if what?
Even if that wasn't anybody from our church, just
Well, who else is going to go out and give them a Greater Grace track?
somebody's mad at Greater Grace. I don't know. Like, is it really
That's yeah, that's like okay, Martians from outer space are going to come and write Greater Grace on the wall or something.
Well, which one has the higher chance? Somebody who hates the church.
Well,
Not offended because
that's a whole nother thing. If that's the case, they can go around.
that's it.
All right, stop. We'll do this at break because that's taking us this way. All right? At break, I will answer that. Okay. However, if you have engaged someone in conversation and you develop a conversation or relationship with them, then you can hand them a tract, even if on private property. So if you're in a mall and you approach people and you engage in a conversation and they're open to you talking to them about the Lord, it's okay to give them literature. Okay, never, ever, 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 ever leave anything on anyone's car. I've got a call about that one. I got a call about a person who slipped a tract through a cracked window. And I can't play that recording for you because there's too many swears on it. But I'm telling you, and that happened in a store, and of course, who did they report it to? Store management. Boom. So you get a double whack. You get a double whammy. You get the person calling you, then you get, excuse me, we have a complaint about your church passing out literature, and we have a strict policy on no solicitation. Okay. The bottom line is we don't want to get complaints. In that sense, we have received hostile complaints. Baltimore County has a bill against it, so it's actually against the law. The bill also makes it illegal to place leaflets and flyers on car windshields. Violations are punishable by $500 for the first instance and $1,000 for subsequent incidents. Okay. Now, approaching people and follow-up. This is policy, visiting people or going door to door. Visits to a person's door should not be late at night. Visitation teams should be sensitive to the family, being busy, etc. What's a bad time to go on visitation in the evening? Huh? Right. Don't go knocking on somebody's door at dinner time unless they know you're coming. Okay? Because then it's awkward. Number one, they probably don't want to be rude to you, but they may feel like, oh, now I got to invite you in because, it'll be rude. You can smell the food. Because 9 times out of 10, when you do that, you open, ooh, it smells good in here, right? Because you're looking for like an opening line to say to them to kind of break the ice, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to say, ooh, it smells good. Ooh, what you cook smells good. Oh, boy. Or, hey, we're here for dinner, Oh, sure, come on in. I only got 1 piece of chicken between 6 kids, but we'll make it work for you, right? But you put people in that position. You never want to put people in a position of uncomfortableness. So it's a big testimony out of all of this if people see that you respect their domain. Okay. Men should never be sent to follow up on women without a woman on a team. There may be co-ed teams. There should be co-ed teams. There should always be co-ed teams when visiting door to door. People should be visited by the same people on a consistent basis. In other words, if you're ministering in an area, and let's say me and Richard and Zolt are a team, and it's like, okay, hey, I've visited the Johnson family. Okay, next week you go to the Johnson family. No, if I've developed a rapport with the Johnson family, then I go back to the Johnson family. I stay consistent with them. And whoever you come in contact with, you stay consistent. And then together, guess what? We both have people that we've been ministering to. And they're more deeper related to us. Approaching children. Children under the age of 16 should not be approached without a guardian present. If you're soul winning or evangelizing in a street and you see a child, is it okay to approach that child? So what do? Huh? Can you say anything to that child? You know what? What I always do, what I tell people to do, is like, especially if you're in a neighborhood, hey, are your parents home? If they say yes, then you can say, hey, I'm here. We're here about the sports club, whatever it is. Let's go. And it's okay to walk with that child to their home and meet their parent. That's actually the best thing to do. That's the best thing to do. But, let's be honest. People approach children because children are easier to approach than adults. They're less confrontational. And, if you have if you have a bunch of 12-year-old kids and you get their attention, it's very easy to engage them. And actually, it's you guys that do sports club, how many times do the same kids pray the prayer of salvation? Especially when you do it as a group, you know what I mean? So, that's very important. If children are gathered in the area where evangelizing, ask them if their parents are close by. If so, it's fine to walk with them to meet the parent and to explain to the parent what you want to share with the child. If not, simply be polite and walk away. Mom's at home? Okay, well, we'll be in the neighborhood. When your mom's home, we'll come back and we'll tell your mom what we're doing. If children are gathered in the area, I'm sorry, I read that. If you knock on the door and a child answers, what do you do? Yeah. How many parents are here? How many people have kids? Okay. If your kid, especially if they're under the age of 14, if your kid answers the door, you're not home or something. Is that like a woohoo? Is that bad? Will your kid get in trouble? More than likely. Yeah, your baby's small. It's like, ain't no doubt about it. I had a very scary experience like that with my daughter. Okay. Ask the child if an adult is home. If not, immediately instruct the child to close the door and to walk away. Most parents instruct their children not to open up the door if they're not home, but especially this, never talk to a stranger. Oh, but I'm a Christian. You know what? Church is the number one attractive place for pedophiles. Church. Okay? I gave you the background checks, right? And the policies for working with children. Okay, I sit on the other side of having to read those things sometimes. And a church of this size, there's a number of people out there that, so we don't want to present ourselves in that way. Now, I'll remind myself to tell you the Christmas story as we're about to hit on our first break. The Christmas story is when you initially look at these protocols, you kind of say, well, aren't we hindered from preaching the gospel or being free? But on the contrary, we are being we are being kind of formed into being genuine and not being a machine. Does that make sense to you? Genuine approach, not a machine. Our purpose is not to just get the word to you no matter what, but our purpose is to approach you in a way where it's attractive to you or you're drawn to what we are or what we are doing. Now, the Christmas Stories is in New York. We got permission to do an outdoor concert, but we were told outdoor concert. Oh, you guys aren't preaching or anything like that. No, outdoor concert. We're not preaching. Okay, not like preaching like a message, yada yada. But what we can do is play the music, narrate in between the songs, and close the program, which is what we did. And in doing that, the first year, they were so pleased with us that they gave us permission to preach the gospel after that, because we respected. And our approach to them was we honored what they said. We honored what they said. Matter of fact, the last time we did it, when the bus pulled up, they had the police there, and the police actually escorted me back to the station to get further permission so that we wouldn't be hindered from being able to preach the gospel. Because when we also preached, we weren't just yelling at people and telling them we're going to hell. But in the sweetness of the program, we presented the love of Christ. And it was very, and the gospel should be. It should be the gospel, when people hear the gospel, it should be the most beautiful thing they've ever heard in their life. Right? Shouldn't be this big confrontation. It should be beautiful. Okay? All right, cool beans. First break, take 15 minutes, be back at 7:15.